to our online series where we aim to bring contemporary dance closer to the audiences and offer insight into creative processes behind each performance presented at the festival. It's my pleasure to talk to Tyom Boomershinom, artistic director of Dance On Ensemble, a company based in Berlin that has gained international recognition for its unique focus on dancers over 40 and for presenting groundbreaking contemporary dance work. Ty, thank you so much for being here.
Sure, happy to be here. Thank you.
So Dance On Ensemble, as I said, is internationally unique in celebrating, from my point of view, art, wisdom, and skills of dancers over 40. Why, from your point of view, is this mission important, and how has it shaped ensemble's dance landscape, ensemble identity since its beginning? I think the company was established in 2015. So right. Does it change somehow from that moment, or what is the most important from your point of view as a mission of the company?
First I should say that the company was grounded or founded by Madeline Ritter, who had this idea to do something about age and dance. Her organization had been working in dance in Germany for many years on different levels, funding, programming, lots of different programs they've developed about dance. And the question of age and dance came up. And so with her team, they said, well, what should we do? Make a film, just write a proposal that's published. And then one of her team suggested, well, why don't we actually make an ensemble? Mm-hmm. Keeping in mind that NDT3 had, of course, done this. And they thought, oh, that's a good idea, so let's do that. So I say this not only to give Madeline credit, but to understand that the origins of this company are unusual. It really came from an artist-based idea, but from an organization, as opposed from a choreographer or from a collective of dancers. So basically, the office came up with the idea. Mm-hmm. And that's unusual in dance. Most dance is created from the head of a choreographer or even a collective of like-minded dancers. Mm-hmm. And this was really created out of a social context and a curiosity about how to approach this.
And like coming maybe to compare to NDT3, which was like people who worked with Yuri for many years, what was the process of choosing the members of the company? Because that's there are many dancers, many, from my point of view, personalities in the dance field. So how did you choose the company members?
Yeah,
on the repertory or how?
That's an important distinction. NDT3 is, and it was great. I was living in the Netherlands for many years before living in Germany, so I knew NDT3. But they were exactly members of NDT, former members, and all people that knew Yuri Killian and had worked with him. Dance On is different in that we really open up to all dancers, professional dancers over the age of 40. We choose through an audition process. Mm-hmm. We're always open to applications. Of course, there's a limit to what we can employ. We can't take everyone that's interested, but we try to keep the range as broad as we can. And we have an age limit. You have to be old enough. Mm-hmm. And I also always have to point out that it's for professional dancers, because we do often get people who are in their 50s or 40s who say, I always wanted to dance. And I have to explain, well, then, this isn't the place for you. Yeah. So we have auditions. I have workshops, and over time, we've just collected the dancers we have in that way. My idea, what I look for in dancers is, well, two things. One, dancers who have chosen to keep dancing themselves, because Dance On can't be the motivator for someone to choose to keep dancing. It's actually the opposite. I need the dancers that have that motivation themselves. If I meet dancers who are 47 and say, no, I'm still dancing, I'm in this project, I'm doing this, then I think that's already someone I'm interested in. And then secondly, they have to have a genuine curiosity to do new things. And I don't judge this at all. I think there's a value in dancers who only want to do what they committed to, if it's a choreographer or a style, and they don't really want to move out of that.
Mm-hmm.
I completely understand. You commit to something for 30 years and that's what you want to do. Then also, this isn't the place for that. It's a place for people who are looking for new experiences
Mm-hmm.
and who want to try something different than maybe having danced for the same choreographer for so long. They want to try something else.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the main criteria, the two things that they've chosen to show that they are interested in dancing, even when they've been let go from the big company they were with, or they're finding it difficult to find new projects because of their age. And if they want to keep dancing, they find a way. And then
Mm-hmm.
dance on is also another thing for them to add to that. It's not the only thing. It's
Mm-hmm.
another thing. So
Great, sounds great. We need, yeah, we has to keep ourselves curious for new stuff all the time, I guess. Can you tell us something about Encounter series? It says that it invites choreographers to perform on stage with company members. And can you tell us something about this format, how it works?
yeah, it came up and I was just considering what to do. What I just described to you about the curiosity of the dancers is also makes my job very difficult. I've hired several dancers who've done so many things. To find something new for them is quite challenging. And I do keep all of them in mind when I see work, when I look at choreographers. I'm trying to think like who of the ensemble would want to do this, or who would it be new for, or challenging, or difficult even. And then with this came the thought of, well, when we perform works by a choreographer, well, living or dead, I often think of how we are the representation of that work, especially if they're alive. That we are there taking the bows, taking the bravos, and maybe taking the negative feedback. But the choreographer isn't present. It's an invisible idea sort of over our heads. And I thought, well, what if they're always there? What if they're on stage? Just that simple idea of what if they are always present? And then why not be on stage? And then as it developed, I thought, well, it would be really interesting to have the choreographer confront one of the dancers and dance with them, to be on stage themselves, to basically deal with the what happens when they make work. Some of them still perform, of course, themselves, but what is it to make a work on a repertory company and then leave, as opposed to making a duet with someone and committing to it yourself?
Mm.
It's also what I found interesting, asking these choreographers to commit themselves to a work as a performer as well as a maker, and to do that with a seasoned dancer that is as much their equal as anything else. Often these choreographers work with dancers who are much younger, and they're coming into situations where the hierarchy is clear and in some ways necessary.
Mm.
But what we try to set up is a situation where they're meeting an equal. An equal has as many years of performance experience as themselves, and they sort of work it out on stage together. That was sort of the idea, just to have this meeting of minds, and also for the choreographer to work with someone who it would be a different situation than what they would normally have, to work with someone their same age or even older and to dance with them is a very different experience than someone 20, 30 years younger than you, even in a duet. But to meet an equal on stage it's also a pleasure. So yeah, that's where it comes.
Because, and also, I mean, nowadays the the relationship like choreographer and dancer has changed a lot. So I think they are becoming more and more as a partners. But with this knowledge of older choreographer, and especially let's move on to Lucindy Childs, seminal figure of postmodern dance. She came out of legendary Judson Dance Theater. And from your perspective, what made her contribution to contemporary dance so influential, so important? So let's talk first about Lucindy. I know you know her well.
I think a lot of it for me it's several things. It's both the change she made from Judson to her own work was so radical. I think much more so than any of the other Judson colleagues that she had. Lucinda's work during the Judson time is so radically different than what she did post Judson. She really made her post Judson work is really dance. It's simple in that there isn't text, there aren't props. It's not multimedia. It's really the body in space, sometimes at its simplest, sometimes walking, moving, sitting, running, skipping. And she worked very rhythmically and geometrically, which was very, very radically different than what she did at Judson. What she did at Judson was theatrical, text-based, lots of props and images and what we would call multimedia performance today. And so I think that's an important detail because it separated her very strongly from Judson immediately. She was seen as a choreographer, not as a performance artist or a performer. And I think her contribution to dance came from that she committed herself to dance in the classical sense, that to bodies in space moving, sometimes to music, sometimes not. But she wanted to see dance. She wanted to make dance. And I think that's a strong aspect at that time when so many people were experimenting with different ways of moving and different ways of performing. She came with that from that background and she came with that information and yet still made an incredibly beautiful formal dance, which I found really interesting.
So this evening will contain three works on in silence. And why I think you explained why was it important for you to stage these works, but can you tell us how was the process like? Because as you said, it's really very time ridden space, very precise work, and very sound or seems to be very simple, but I think at the same time it's very challenging. I mean, not for me as a dancer, but for maybe for the audiences. So
it's from all sides. Lucinda she also has worked in stages. I think in the 70s, almost, up until 79, Lucinda worked exclusively without musical accompaniment. The pieces themselves are very musical. They're rhythmic, but they're also very musical, but they're in silence. You hear the breathing, the stepping of the feet. But until she worked with Philip Glass, she worked entirely without music. And then after meeting Philip, she never went back. She only worked with composed music for a long time. And then a later aspect of her work is finding older music. She worked with a lot of Baroque music at one point, and even pre-recorded music, which she hadn't done for a while. So she went through real phases, the silent works, the commissions, large-scale collaborations, evenings, and then to smaller works again, and to repertory company works, where she worked with older music. I chose these works also to give a range of the evening. The three works you'll see, two of them are rarely done. One was never done since the 70s, the first piece, Untitled Trio. I brought back because I wanted to see it myself. Purely selfish. I had no idea. There's a score and a broken video, and there are two parts to it. You only see the second part. and I was just curious what the piece was and what it looked like. And it's beautiful. And I'm really happy we do it. And Lucinda is also, she was very grateful to see it kind of come alive again.
Mhm.
The second piece, Radio Courses, was always in the repertory of Lucinda's. I danced it myself for years when I was in her company. And the last piece, I also restaged Interior Drama. It's another very complicated, beautiful work. And I wanted to show the range of basically her mind.
Mhm.
In these early pieces from the 70s, you see the complexity, the purity, and the simple beauty of dancing, and the challenge of it. The pieces require a focus from the performers and from the audience that is quite intense, but also satisfying. I've always said there's nothing more satisfying than finishing a work of Lucinda Childs well. Um, it's unlike any other choreography I've worked with before. When you finish and you know you've done it, it's almost like sports. Feel like you've won. It's very much a sense of like, yes. It's really hard not to kind of yell out at the end, like, uh, but at the same time, they're very serene and very beautiful. And then the new work she has made is almost reaching back to her Judson time.
Yeah,
And
that was my question. Like this context, as you mentioned, because this new work is really using the video. It's very different. Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting because it's just where she is now, and it's different, of course, because it's more technological. There's more detail. There's more. It's cleaner, let's say. But it refers back to, for me, her Judson work. There's text that she speaks.
Yeah.
There's an object. There's video. It's very gestural. And the dancer from the ensemble she works with, Miki Orihara, is a Japanese woman who danced with Martha Graham for over 30 years. And I was very curious to see how they would approach each other. And I'm very happy with it. I think they were a great couple to choose. Um, and they really liked each other, which is really helpful, of course. And it's beautiful to see what Lucinda created. And I asked Mickey, in terms of the actual physical material, how much collaboration occurred. And Mickey said, Lucinda made all of it. She said it's the movement, every step, it's all her. And I thought, oh, that's great, because then you really see the range. You wouldn't think these works are all done by the same woman, but they are.
Mhm.
And I'm very happy to put on display. Yeah.
That sounds very interesting. I'm really very much looking forward to welcome you and her and Mickey in Bratislava. I think it's really important for our dance community. But what do you think? Like, what does it demand from audience today? Because I think our audiences, it's not as much used to maybe this type of work. So, what do you think?
I
How-
think what's interesting, for many years when I was dancing with Lucinda, and I danced for her since 1991, with a break, and then I went back in the 2000s, and I knew about these works. I call them works in silence. She doesn't call them that. She names each piece, but I think there's 14, 15 of them. There's a lot. And I knew about them when I was in the company. And when I was in the company, the only piece that remained in repertory is the second one you'll see in the circle. All the others were gone. And when I kind of came to realize there were so many more, I asked her, well, why don't we do them? And she was like, no, 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 I'm not interested in going back. And nobody wants to see those pieces. And she said when she performed a lot of them in the 70s, it was very difficult because the audiences would often say, like, where's the music? Did someone forget to turn it on? Very challenging. And these Judson makers, these post Judson choreographers, they weren't performing necessarily for a real dance audience. The audiences were artists and poets and composers, friends of theirs. but not necessarily the dance people of the time. That was a very big split in New York, that the downtown postmodern scene was not full of dancers. The dancers were all on another side of the dance world. But I said to her, I was like, Lucinda, I think things have changed. I think people would appreciate these works. I think people are making works like this now and don't understand that you already did it 25 years ago. Because I see work like this in Europe when I travel around. I see new work in silence that's rhythmic, that's pattern generated. And I look at it and think, it's not their fault. They don't know because she didn't want to stage them. So for years, I begged her and suggested and promoted and we have another program with the ensemble, a full evening of 6 dances from Lucinda um, from this early period. And when she finally capitulated and let me stage them or she saw the evening and was like, "Oh, they're beautiful." I was like, "I know." Ah.
Good.
Yeah. And audiences loved them. We have toured it a lot. The other evening, the Works in Silence evening, and so I wanted to continue with this and to do new ones for this evening with Lucinda herself. And I think audiences just have to enjoy them. And I think that's the difference now. It's not even if an audience isn't used to seeing contemporary dance, our world is different now with internet and different media. These 3 short pieces, they're each 10 minutes, are so intense and so beautiful that what I've noticed wherever we've been with any of these works is that people are really engaged and they recognize immediately not just the work that goes into them, but the beauty of it and the genius of the idea. And that's the satisfaction I get out of it. I think Lucinda was a bit, I mean, traumatized is a strong word, but affected by the response in the 70s when she premiered these works. And people were not necessarily supportive, but she kept going. And it gives me even more credit to her that she trusted enough in her own vision to keep going. And now we see it when we see these pieces and you see the dates on them, 71, 68, that they were made. And you think, I saw students from the contemporary dance school making new work like this, and they have no idea that this was done. And it's very current. It doesn't feel old fashioned. It feels, if anything, completely timeless and even slightly avant garde. But that's what I love about Lucinda's work. It can have all of those elements and yet still be beautiful. It's what Susan Sontag, I can't remember the exact quote, but something about the thing about Lucinda's work is that it continues and remains to be beautiful. And that's the final thing of it. It's just beautiful to watch, even with all these conceptual, intellectual ideas around it. It's simply beautiful work. And that I appreciate from her.
So I think that's a really nice end to our conversation, and I'm really happy and excited to see all of that in Bratislava. So thank you very much for sharing, and I hope that was a great invitation for everybody to join us in that evening.
Me too. I'm excited to come. I've never been to Bratislava, and I'm really excited to see the city. So great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Ciao.
All right. Ciao.